Did you know? Tens of thousands of Americans are quietly vanishing, not to Japan, not to Thailand, but to the Philippines. And they're not coming back. They're buying homes, raising dogs, marrying locals, and ghosting their old lives in the US. So what's driving this silent exodus? Why are these cities pulling Americans in? Harder than Florida, Texas, or California ever could. Stick around, because what you're about to hear might explain something you felt but couldn't name. And if a strange chill just ran down your spine, smash that like button. It might not be a coincidence. Number 10. Cebu City. Let's not sugarcoat it. You're not tired, you're numb. Clocking in, zoning out, lying awake at night wondering if this is it. You eat sad lunches at your desk, dream of vacations you'll never take, and scroll past work from Bali influencers while whispering must be nice with dead eyes. But here's the part they don't post. They're not in Bali. They're in Cebu. Because while you're battling rush hour traffic and drinking burnt office coffee, thousands of Americans, many in their 30s, not retirees, are setting up shop in Cebu City, working remotely from rooftop condos with pools and a live band on Friday. Yeah, that's not a dream. That's a Tuesday. They're not escaping the grind, they're outsmarting it. And if you're sitting there waiting to retire at 60 to finally enjoy life, let me be the voice your HR manager doesn't want you to hear. That plan is broken. Cebu doesn't wait for you to burn out. It dares you to plug in differently. In one corner, IT Park. Think Silicon Valley energy, minus the soul-sucking rent and fake smiles. Coders, content creators, and crypto bros camped out in cafes that serve espresso strong enough to jolt your purpose back to life. In the other, beachside escapes where you can swim with turtles in the morning and take Zoom calls by noon. Cebu is where fiber internet meets fresh mangoes for $1. Because God forbid you live in a city where both tech and fruit suck. And if you're still clinging to the "but it's the Philippines" defense, here's a slap of reality. Cebu International Airport connects you to Tokyo, Seoul, and LA with fewer delays than your local subway. Oh, and healthcare? Private hospitals here don't make you sell a kidney to fix the other one. A Seattle tech guy turned Cebu expat said it best: "I stopped waiting for permission to live slow." Translation? He realized retirement isn't an age. It's a decision. So ask yourself this: what are you really loyal to? A cubicle that eats your soul? Or a life that makes you forget what day it is? Because every day feels like freedom? And if you're feeling a weird mix of envy, anger, and curiosity, good. That's your brain waking up. This isn't an ad. This is a warning. Cebu isn't the future. It's what you're missing right now. Number 9. Dumaguete. You don't need more nightlife. You don't need another networking brunch or 5-step morning routine that supposedly makes billionaires cry tears of productivity. You need peace. Not the spa day kind. The soul-silencing, real kind. And that's where Dumaguete slides in, quietly without flexing. No flashy skyline. No overpriced brunch scene. Just a town that somehow feels like an apology letter from the universe for all the noise you thought was normal. You know what most people say when they first land in Dumaguete? "I was just passing through." Right. Just like how people say, "I'll only stay for one drink." Then it's 10 years later and they're hosting potlucks with expats who feel more like siblings than strangers. Here's the kicker: Dumaguete is one of the top Philippine cities with the highest density of American expats per capita. Not Manila. Not Cebu. Dumaguete. That tiny, polite, unbothered city that somehow keeps pulling people in like it knows something the rest of us don't. And it does. You ever wonder why some people finally look alive when they get away from their lives? Dumaguete has no mall screaming at you to buy things you'll regret. Instead, it has walkable streets where people make eye contact. A rental home for the price of your Starbucks addiction. A fish market where no one tries to upsell you an app subscription with your tilapia. From our stats, we've got more viewers outpacing subscribers. Kindly join our community. Thank you. Alright. It's the kind of place where people actually mean, "How are you?" and not "Can you wrap this up in 30 seconds? Locals wave. Kids smile. Strangers remember your name, not your title. And the expat community? It's not some exclusive club of tired men yelling about crypto. It's artists, teachers, volunteers, and yes, the occasional weird guy who plays the ukulele at every gathering. But they belong to each other. They actually do life together. Visaya lessons, charity drives, small-town festivals that feel more like group therapy in disguise. One American widower said it best: "I came here to rest. I stayed because for once I felt human again." Dumaguete doesn't sparkle. It doesn't sell you a dream. It hands you back the time you forgot you lost. So yeah, come visit. But don't be surprised when you don't leave. This city doesn't try to impress you. It just understands you. And sometimes, That's more dangerous than love. Number 8. Olongapo. Let's not dance around it. Some of you didn't plan to stay in the Philippines. You planned to survive it. A tour, a deployment, a chapter in a book you never finished. And yet here you are, 2 kids, 3 dogs, and a street vendor who knows your lumpia order better than your own mom did. This isn't retirement. This is real life, version 2.0. Because while the rest of the world keeps clinging to the idea that healing happens in silent yoga retreats or overpriced self-help journals, Americans in Olongapo found peace the old-fashioned way, belonging. Subic Bay once echoed with boots-on-ground military life. Discipline, protocol, goodbyes. But after the bases closed, not everyone packed up. Some stayed. And they didn't just stay. They planted roots so deep they forgot they ever wore a uniform. They married locals. Raised families. Painted their fences brown and white, not red, white, and blue. They went from foreign to familiar, and nobody calls them sir anymore. Just Tito John. Just family. And here's a stat you weren't expecting. Olongapo is one of the few cities in the Philippines where multi-generational American Filipino households are the norm, not the anomaly. Kids grow up calling half the neighborhood uncle, without a DNA test in sight. The community doesn't ask where you're from, just whether you're hungry. You ever notice how some people only start to breathe when they stop chasing approval? That's Olongapo. It doesn't clap for you. It nods. Quietly. Respectfully. As if to say, you're home now. Relax. And no, this isn't some tropical fairy tale. Olongapo isn't trying to seduce you. It's rough around the edges, honest in ways most places are too self-conscious to be. But that's what makes it feel more earned. There are no trust falls or icebreakers. Just a neighborhood barbecue, a borrowed tool from your neighbor, and someone's Lola handing you extra rice because she heard you coughing last night. This place doesn't ask you to reinvent yourself. It just gives you permission to stop performing. You thought you came here for the past. But surprise, you're building a future. One where your story doesn't need editing, filtering, or translation. Olongapo isn't about escape. It's about returning to something you didn't realize you were missing, a version of yourself that never needed to prove anything in the first place. Number 7. Angeles City. You ever feel like you're living on autopilot? Same job, same microwave dinner, same Google search for places to retire early that don't cost your soul. Well, spoiler, Americans already figured it out, and they didn't move to Bali. They moved to Angeles City, Philippines. Now before your ego starts coughing, let's talk facts. Angeles hosts one of the largest concentrations of US expats in Southeast Asia. Not tourists. Not Instagram posers. People who live there. Pay rent. Pay taxes. Own dogs. Raise families. And you know why? Because they finally admitted what most people are too afraid to say out loud. I didn't want more money. I wanted more life. Angeles was once home to Clark Air Base, the largest US Air Force base outside the mainland. And when it closed, most folks assumed the Americans packed up and left. They didn't. They married locals. Opened diners. Built shops. Stayed. And if you stroll through Fields Avenue, it's not rare to hear someone yell, "Hey Mike." And 3 mics turn around. Because this place isn't a fantasy, it's a second shot that actually stuck. You think you're free in the US? Try walking into a cafe where everyone knows your name, your cholesterol level, and the fact that your dog's birthday is next week. That's Angeles. And listen, if this is hitting a little too close to home, maybe it's not random. Maybe it's recognition. So do yourself a favor, smash that like button. Not for the algorithm. For you. Because if your thumb hesitated just now, maybe it's your gut finally speaking up. And here's the kicker, living in Angeles costs 70% less than Florida, and you still get mangoes, motorbike rides, dental care that doesn't require a loan, and yes, apple pie that tastes like Georgia sundaes. But what makes people stay isn't the price tag. It's the feeling of belonging without auditioning. You don't need to be the best version of yourself here. Just the version that isn't dying inside trying to be perfect. You ever wonder why some of the happiest people you meet live in the simplest places? Here's your punchline. They stopped pretending to be someone they weren't. Angeles isn't loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It just quietly hands you a plate of food, a cold beer, and a reason to not go back. So yeah, maybe you're not looking for paradise. Maybe you're just looking for a place that feels familiar enough to breathe, but far enough from your old life that you can finally exhale. Welcome to Angeles. You were always headed here, you just didn't know it yet. Number 6. Davao City. Be honest, when's the last time you felt safe in your own country? Or did you just get really good at pretending? Let's get real, America might have handed you freedom, but it also gave you anxiety. You lock your doors 4 times. You check your rear view like it owes you money. You can't even walk your dog at night without a side eye and a flashlight app. But then there's Davao. A city where peace isn't a buzzword, it's the baseline. No screaming sirens, no jumpy crowds, no Karen flipping out in the frozen aisle. Just quiet streets, clear rules, and neighbors who don't side-eye your Amazon packages like it's an episode of CSI. Now here's what'll make your brow twitch. Davao is consistently ranked among the safest cities in Southeast Asia. Not just in the Philippines. In Southeast Asia. That's right. In a world where most cities are in a race to gentrify or implode, Davao just functions. It runs like a well-oiled machine with manners. You don't need gated communities here. You need a front yard and maybe some banana trees. And before your inner skeptic starts huffing, let's talk reality. You know that weird tension you carry? The what-if anxiety loop you call normal? It disappears in Davao. Why? Because here, strangers don't feel like threats. They feel like people. Imagine that. And if you're feeling that weird flutter in your gut right now, maybe it's not fear, maybe it's your instincts waking up. Smash that like button. Not for me. For you. Because if you're still watching, your brain's already somewhere in Mindanao. Now here's the real twist. Davao isn't flashy. There's no loud nightlife trying to seduce your dopamine. No overpriced brunch places promising enlightenment through avocado toast. Just real people. Real food. And neighborhoods where Americans and Filipinos literally plant gardens together. In Davao, people read in cafes. Not to flex. To breathe. They walk alone at night, not because they're brave, but because they're not afraid. Expats here aren't running from the US. They're reclaiming their peace. You ever wonder why the happiest people you know aren't the loudest? Here's the punchline. They live in places like Davao. This isn't a maybe someday city. It's the you should have moved here 5 years ago city. Davao doesn't need to impress you. It just quietly hands you back your sanity, and dares you to finally live like you're not being hunted by your own stress. And sometimes, that's more life-changing than beachfront views. Number 5. Baguio. You ever get so tired of sweating through your own existence you start fantasizing about fog? Not vacations. Not cocktails on a beach. Fog. Stillness. Cold air. Silence thick enough to feel like therapy. That's not poetic nonsense. That's what burnout looks like when it's begging for relief. And Baguio? Baguio is the reply. Let's not pretend everyone wants fireworks and bikinis. Some of us are done chasing dopamine like it's a job description. We don't want to party. We want to breathe. And in a tropical country that feels like a microwave with palm trees, Baguio is the only city that lets your nervous system sit down and exhale. Sitting 1,500 meters above sea level, Baguio was once America's summer capital for a reason. Cool air. Pine trees. Mornings that feel like they come with an apology letter. And here's a stat most people miss. Baguio has one of the highest concentrations of retired academics and creatives in the country, expats who came to reset and accidentally healed. Because here's the thing, not everyone wants the digital nomad dream. Some of us don't want rooftop pools or weekend flights to Bali. We want quiet. Not the I'm bored kind, the I might finally be okay kind. And don't let the chill vibe fool you. Baguio isn't sleepy. It's steady. Professors still teach part-time. Writers fill journals like they're bleeding onto the page. Painters sell from balconies. It's not a place to disappear. It's a place to reappear, without all the pretending. And if this is tugging at something in your gut, something slow and honest, maybe it's not nostalgia. Maybe it's permission. Smash that like button. Not to help us. To remind yourself this kind of peace actually exists. Because here's the truth. Baguio doesn't shout. It doesn't seduce. It whispers. And if you've been screaming inside for years, that whisper feels louder than any party ever could. No, it won't impress your followers. It'll confuse them. You're not in Boracay. Why no beach? But Baguio doesn't care. It gives you fog, music in the park, mountain tea, and the kind of silence that makes you realize just how loud your old life was. So if you're tired of pretending your burnout is just stress, if you're looking for somewhere your soul can stop clenching its fists, Baguio already saved you a seat. No sunburn. No small talk. Just enough stillness to remember who you were before the world got loud. Number 4. Bacolod. You ever notice how the richest people always look the most miserable in family photos? Tense smiles, eyes begging for release, kids dressed like Wall Street interns. Yeah, we see it too. Because somewhere along the way, you were told success equals stress. Grind now, live later. Except later keeps moving the goalpost. But what if the finish line wasn't a yacht or a gated community? What if it was Bacolod? Don't laugh. Not yet. Because Bacolod is where people live the life you keep promising yourself someday. Not because they're loaded. Because they stopped pretending they needed to be. This is a city where no one cares if you used to be a manager, a lawyer, or the guy who got laid off and still wears business casual to the grocery store. Here's the real deal. Bacolod's cost of living is up to 70% cheaper than most US cities. And yet somehow, people look 70% happier too. Coincidence? Please. You ever wonder why the happiest people you know are also the ones who stop checking their email after 6 p.m.? That's not luck. That's Bacolod logic. You don't need clout here. Just a decent appetite and maybe a good mango vendor. Retirees walk to the market. Freelancers sip coffee with their landlord. Nobody's flexing, they're just existing, and that's more radical than it should be. And if this is tickling something in the back of your mind, smash that like button. Not because we said so. Because your nervous system probably just sighed for the first time in weeks. Here's what Bacolod gets right. It's not about escape. It's about belonging. You don't fit in, you get absorbed. You bring a casserole to your neighbor's birthday without a second thought. You stop introducing yourself by job title. You start leading with "Hey, coffee." This city doesn't care how many followers you have. It cares if you brought fish sauce. It doesn't expect you to impress. It just wants you to sit down and stay a while. And the truth is, Bacolod's charm isn't loud. It's warmth without performance. It's a neighbor knocking at your gate just to check if you're breathing. It's fresh fish, low rent, and zero pressure to be anyone but yourself, the version that isn't rehearsing conversations in your head every 5 seconds. So yeah, maybe success isn't a skyline or a Rolex. Maybe it's a porch, a breeze, and a table full of people who know your name. Welcome to Bacolod, the city that smiles back, because it finally feels real. Number 3, Iloilo. Pause. Breathe. Unclench. You're not broken, you're just burned out from pretending that chaos equals ambition. You wake up to alarms, scroll through strangers' highlight reels, and call it motivation. You measure your worth in deadlines, double taps, and how fast you reply to emails labeled urgent. But what if the real flex was silence? Enter Iloilo, a city that doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It just quietly hands you everything you thought you had to fight for: stability, beauty, and peace that doesn't perform for social media. This is Manila's calmer, smarter sibling. No drama, no noise, no ego in a traffic jam. Iloilo is where the streets are clean, the rivers walkable, and the people polite in a way that feels like therapy. You don't need to announce yourself here. The air already feels like it knows your name. Stat drop: Iloilo is one of the most walkable, livable cities in the Philippines. And it's not trending, which is exactly why people who get it stay. You ever notice how people who look truly rested usually live somewhere no one's bragging about? That's Iloilo. It's not hiding, it's just not yelling. Quick check: are you even subscribed? If you've made it this far and your thumb's still hovering, just hit it. Join the crew that's quietly escaping the chaos, one city at a time. And in a world obsessed with more grind, more hustle, more noise, Iloilo offers less intentionally. Less stress. Less comparison. Less pretending you love the game when you're 2 seconds from benching yourself. In Iloilo, people don't care what's on your resume. They care if you show up with a good story and maybe some bread. This is where former execs become gardeners. Where freelancers rediscover weekends. Where families walk beside rivers instead of pacing in malls. You're not escaping anything by coming here. You're returning to a version of life that doesn't hurt to wake up to. No rise and grind. Just rise and breathe. So if you're done with the performance, if your soul's been whispering "I'm tired," while your mouth keeps saying "I'm fine," maybe it's time. Time to live somewhere that doesn't ask you to shrink, shout, or sell yourself to be heard. Welcome to Iloilo. It won't change your life with noise, it'll do it with stillness. Number 2, Puerto Princesa. Run long enough and eventually, you forget what stillness feels like. You start mistaking adrenaline for ambition. Silence becomes suspicious. And rest? That's just guilt with a different flavor. If that hits a nerve, good. You're not alone. Because at some point, a lot of people realize they're not chasing dreams anymore, they're just running from themselves. And that's where Puerto Princesa comes in, not as a reward, but as a reset button you didn't know you needed. This isn't a city trying to impress anyone. There's no skyline bragging about growth. No influencers staging sunsets. Just raw, unfiltered nature so honest it makes your social masks feel heavy. Jungle, sea, salt air, and stillness so loud it forces you to finally hear yourself again. Here's the value in the first 10 seconds. Puerto Princesa has one of the lowest population densities of any capital city in the Philippines, and the highest number of expats per square kilometer who don't want to be found. Why? Because they didn't come here to level up. They came to lay it all down. You ever wonder why people who seem the happiest also tend to disappear from your feed? That's not coincidence. That's Puerto Princesa logic. When you live somewhere this quiet, you realize how much noise you were mistaking for connection. And speaking of connection, are you even subscribed yet? Be honest. Because if you're nodding right now, your brain already clicked with ours. Join this community before you scroll past and forget what this moment stirred up. Smash that like button while you're at it. Sometimes clicking that is the first decision you've made for yourself all day. In Puerto Princesa, no one asks what you do. They ask if you've eaten. If you've slept well. If you want to come help release sea turtles at sunrise. People here adopt stray dogs, not status symbols. They join marine cleanups not for content, but because it actually matters. This city doesn't demand that you evolve. It simply reminds you who you were before life got loud. Before achievement started costing your peace. Before your worth was tied to how productive you looked. Puerto Princesa doesn't fix you. It lets you pause long enough to realize you were never broken, just buried under too much noise. So if you're ready to stop running, this is where your feet finally touch solid ground. No applause. No spotlight. Just rest, the honest kind. Number 1. Cagayan de Oro, CDO. You ever notice how some cities try so hard to impress you that they forget how to feel like home? Bright lights. Loud promises. Everyone rushing nowhere with perfect teeth and zero eye contact. Yeah, CDO isn't that. Cagayan de Oro doesn't sparkle, it works. And in a world where people are drowning in dopamine and pretending to love it, that kind of steadiness is borderline rebellious. Let's cut through the drama. CDO is not going to flood your senses. It's going to calm your nervous system. And guess what? That's exactly why people stay. Because in a country full of tropical cliches, this one city quietly asks, do you actually want peace, or just the illusion of it? Here's your value meal up front. CDO has one of the best cost of living to infrastructure ratios in the Philippines. Translation? You can live like an adult, walk to a mall, hike a mountain, and still have enough left over to buy a decent bike, or a dog, whichever helps you heal faster. This city isn't rural. It isn't urban chaos. It's the in-between. Just enough signal to work online. Just enough nature to remember why you wanted to quit that job in the first place. You ever wonder why some of the most grounded people you meet don't need to post about how at peace they are? Yeah, they live in places like this. And hey, while we're leveling with each other, are you even subscribed yet? Because if you're still here nodding, CDO's not the only thing quietly pulling you in. Hit the button.